Hello YouTube, today I want to talk about One Piece and specifically chapter 1189. Starting with the crew that's with Loki, we immediately get to see Usopp's reaction to Luffy's getting stabbed. Not exactly him getting stabbed directly, but he's the first one who kind of notices that Luffy's haki is getting weaker. And we know that's the case as just a moment later, Jinbei feels it and mentions, hey, Luffy's haki has gotten weaker. And then right after that on the next page, we get to see Gerd, Haruden, and Chopper just flying in on a ship, and they literally crash into Loki, who then with a little bit of talking like, hey, how are your injuries? Some of my injuries are because of you. He's then prompted to tell them about how he seemingly knows who this big bad is, the one who's done all the damage to him and is now completely destroying Luffy and has causing all of these ill effects on the island. And he's kind of going through this flashback where he's talking with Shanks and learning that this is the king of the world. So he doesn't necessarily know that this is Imu, but he knows the position that Imu holds, and he has to understand that this is somebody who is standing far above power compared to what anything else we've seen. It's nothing really new for us, it's more so just another way of getting some more information out to, the crew members who haven't heard any of these stories yet from either Loki, Gaban, or any other form of getting the story told to them. But I think honestly the most notable and interesting thing to come out of the non-monster trio group during this chapter is just two whole panels. And it's Robin just appearing and she's coming in and prompting saying, hey, that's kind of interesting, which is just this little bit of dialogue from Ratataskor basically trying to be like, hey, I'm the one who froze her in reference to Shuri, and then Chopper is finally able to translate that. And Brooke says like, hey, she's not evil, don't worry, she's a daughter to me. And in a goofy sense, Ratataskor is, sees and is like, how is Brooke, the Afro skeleton man, the father of Shuri, the weird demon lady? But obviously, it's not in a literal sense, right? It's in a metaphorical sense. But that's what kind of prompts Robin when she shows up to be like, hey, that's interesting. And then immediately she's like, Chopper, come to the library. Boom, they're at the library. Hey, Saul. And that's it. It's a very interesting and just random thing to just immediately grab Chopper and throw him over here right after he just got to this area with Gerd and Haruden. But I think the reason why that's immediately popping up is the exact same reason why we're almost reminded about Chopper's ability to communicate with animals, which is super prevalent right now because we have an animal who is at the bottom of the library in the little hidden area who seemingly has to have an extreme amount of knowledge and probably has a lot of things it wants to say, but nobody's actually able to understand it and tell all of us non animal people exactly what it's saying. Now, with Chopper going over there, presumably we're going to be getting a big information drop, perhaps learning stuff about the Void Century way back when, stuff to do with, the ancient warrior god from back then, or just generally just him kind of being like, hey, I'm annoyed about all these people coming into my library and being so loud, right? Typical librarian type of stuff, huh? But then, with all of that kind of being said and done, we move away from the regular crew and Loki's injured body as we move on over to what's happening with the monster trio and their fights. Which, let me just say, that is where this chapter is interesting because we learn and see so much. Starting off with Luffy and Emu stuff, as I said at the very start of the chapter, we get to see the ending of the previous chapter, which is Emu piercing through Luffy's body, and now he is impaled up against a tree with Vohu just clean through him, before Emu then pulls out another blade and starts talking about how much he just kind of hates that his name is Monkey D. Luffy and how he hates that because it's a hated name and all that. But then he brings up his brothers who have different names. Just kind of like a weird thing that he phrases it like that, but makes sense the reason why. But it's just interesting that he brings up his brothers. One who was killed by the Marines, and one who has a prominent role in the Revolutionary Army. Like, Emu really knows about Luffy and his whole family thing, even if they aren't the family who's truly related to him, right? So it's just very interesting seeing all these layers and how he keeps bringing it up. And then right after he talks about, the brothers and stuff, he pierces through him with another sword, and the sword's name is the Blade of the Sea God Fragorok, I believe is how it's pronounced. It is an Irish blade, so the name, the exact pronunciation to me is not American, so I cannot pronounce it 100% every time. And if you're wondering what I'm looking down at, it's just my phone with all the notes for this video. But after he is pierced with that blade, Imu is not playing any games as he immediately pulls out another weapon, this nice looking axe, and I definitely will probably mispronounce this one, the axe of Xingjian, I think is how it's pronounced, but it is seemingly Chinese. I'm sure it is. I haven't done too much research on them. That's going to be for a different video, so stay tuned for me talking about the swords and mispronouncing names and stuff. But he pulls out that axe, really cool looking thing, but before he actually does anything with it, it cuts to Zoro versus Sommers, where Zoro tries to hit him with this really cool looking Dragon Damnation attack thing, and Sommers pulls out a blade named Graham and is just able to completely stop Zoro's attack. So this Graham blade is of some serious deal, and we learn exactly just how serious it is when Sommers proceeds to tell us about how, 800 years ago, at the end of the Void Century, when the 19 world nobles came together and took their oath of equality and planted their swords around the empty throne, and how all these years later, upon the resurrection of the people with Omen and the swords being given power of Omen as well, which, as a reminder, is Imu's militaristic might, essentially. So these blades are just juiced up with an extreme amount of demonic force, in a sense, just pure militaristic dominance. And it is then said in in Sommers' own words at just about how powerful these swords are. This is the power that conquered the world. And we know of Graham being Saint Sommers' sword and the household that he is from, Sommers Shepherd. And then we also get to see that Saint Killingham, while fighting Sanji, has Longinus, which, if you don't know what Longinus is, that is the spear that stabbed Jesus Christ while he was on the crucifix. So it's a very notable weapon. And all of the other ones that are mentioned are definitely also notable, and a few that I didn't mention, like Muramasa is named, which is named in a lot of Japanese culture-based things. We, over here in the West, would know it especially through the X-Men, as it has a lot to do with Wolverine, and is basically named after one of the greatest, if not the greatest, swordsmith in Japanese history. But that's it for just kind of generally what's happening. At the end of the chapter, just before Imu's actually able to hit Luffy with the axe, Scopus Gaban reappears and blocks him with both of his axes, because of course, if you're going to have axe warfare, you can't be losing out on Scopus Gaban. But that'll do it for this chapter. There will definitely be more where I'm going to be talking more about the actual, the swords themselves, and more just some general theories I'm having, especially with what I said was the most notable thing of Chopper and Robin's little interaction, so stay tuned for all of that. If you guys enjoyed this video, then consider hitting the like button and commenting down below what you enjoyed so that I can continue doing that. If you didn't like the video, then that's okay too. You can go ahead and dislike it, but don't forget to comment down below what you didn't like so that I can improve upon it so next time you see me, you actually enjoy the video. And if you don't want to just randomly stumble upon me and hope that next time I do better, then consider subscribing and maybe even hitting the notification bell or something so you can see every time I upload. But that's going to do it for this one. Until next time, bye guys.